Oh, fudge. Oh my goodness. I'm live. I guess that's gonna need a little edit. Ooh, there we go. How embarrassing is that? I usually have a chance to put in my title and everything, but apparently I made some kind of mistake, so that's missing. So, anyway, welcome to tonight's Rise of the False Gods book study gathering. And today we are going to be asking, take me to your leader. Who's your leader? Then we can start, if you're following along in the book, you will want to look at page 24, which the title of this section is Prophets of the False Gods. So the reason I put, take me to your leader is that typically a prophet is like in the Bible, the prophet is the one that speaks out the word of God. And the capacity that they served in was that they would tell the people what God said, how you should live, what you should do. And that's not a really bad thing when you are in your less spiritually mature state. But as we grow and mature spiritually, we want to have a direct line to spirit. We don't need a prophet to tell us what God wants. It's just like a baby needs a playpen to keep it safe, and so it doesn't, get in trouble as it starts to roam around the house. So the playpen is like an area of protection. And a prophet, or someone who is a highly evolved spiritual being, educated and, inspired, and then they can help guide us. That's why we have ministers and different spiritual leaders. Even a Sunday school teacher is someone who can guide you. Our goal is to get to the point where when we need the guidance, we turn within, because we were told, I will put my truth within you. I will write it on your hearts. So prophets, though, they're still around. Very often they're people that are more attuned, but you can consult with someone without saying they are the only way. There's always that danger of saying this is the only way. So being that a prophet is one who spoke for God, it was like an intermediary. So you would see God, the prophet, and the people. We want to take out the middleman. Charles Fillmore, when he first, what happened was Myrtle Fillmore had a physical healing that was quite astounding. She was supposed to die because she'd been told she had tuberculosis, and that was, she had inherited it because it was seen as an inherited disease. So one day she went to a spiritual workshop. She and Myrtle and Charles were spiritual seekers. They were trying to reach that deeper connection with God, with spirit. And one day Myrtle went to a presentation by a man called E.B. Weeks, and she heard him say at that gathering that an affirmation for all of us should be, I am a child of God, therefore I cannot inherit illness. That is powerful, especially if you feel you've inherited something. That inheritance could come in. Not all inheritances are good, but we can inherit sometimes habits or ways of thinking, how we see God. That can come from other sources. So we want to establish our own way of being and not just go back to a habit. a lot of people would go to the prophets to seek guidance, where the best place to seek guidance is in prayer and meditation. You can go to any kind of a spiritual guide, expert, guru, as long as you remember not to see them as the source. They might be a channel of this source of goodness and wisdom and intelligence, but remember, they are not the source. There's one source. There's one presence and one power in the universe and in our lives, God, the good, omnipotent. So, don't ever put a prophet, a person, someone else's opinion between you and what you know to be true. So, because God had prophets, then, of course, it makes sense that false gods have prophets. We don't call them that. We call them other things. Prophets of false gods, and we're on page 24 if you're following along in the book. Prophets of false gods are deceptive thoughts built up by error or selfish desires. They are the rationalization of the rational lies we tell ourselves or hear and decide to believe. They allow us to live under the illusion we can find a loophole in spiritual law. And don't we try, when our ego is running us, when we want something and we want it bad enough, we sure can find enough excuses to do whatever we feel we have to do, manipulate whatever we feel we have to manipulate in order to get that thing we want. It never comes to good because a false God, a false sense of worth is just not going to turn true. It's just not the best for you. Illusions are terrible. You know, it's a funny thing. I don't like to watch magicians, okay? I don't have anything against magicians. They fascinate me. But I get caught in that it looks so real. And then you have this desire to trap them. And of course, if we've ever watched a really good magician and they make a mistake, it's like, oh, poof, the illusion's gone and the show's just not funny anymore. And I think as an empath, sometimes I watch magicians and I go like, oh, are they going to screw up? That's why I could never be a magician, because I would think about it so much, I would make it happen to myself. Spiritual principle will not be fooled. Every cause you send forth, if it's a true cause, a good cause, a spiritually aligned cause with principle, good will come up. If it's not going to happen. Another one of the false prophets of God is propaganda and mental manipulation. Included in that is gossip. And included in that is, yes, even fibbing. As we enter now a new election cycle, propaganda is everywhere. It's not only everywhere within the people of our own country, it is the people of other countries working for what? Mental manipulation, disinformation. Now, the thing is, the only way it works is if we don't subject it to the test of truth. Research today is quick and easy. Why do we listen to false gods, mental manipulation? Because it's easy, it strokes our ego, and it promises what we think we want. The prophets, false gurus work because people choose what they want to believe. And sometimes, you know, that thing about believing in accepting truth is uncomfortable and inconvenient. We want everything to be convenient and comfortable. You know, I had a chance yesterday, to get a little bit of cleaning done in the house. A little bit. When I say a little bit, this much. What I got done was I got one kitchen counter cleaned off. It took me weeks to get to that kitchen counter. Why? Well, I wanted to do other stuff. And as the clutter accumulated on the counter, I was demotivated because cleaning that counter was inconvenient and uncomfortable. But I started. I just couldn't look at it anymore. And as I cleaned the counter, when I was done, and it didn't take that long, I turned and I looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And I was filled with energy. See, when we push ourselves through the inconvenience and discomfort, which are lies, they are just our lower self trying to get its own way. Okay. A big prophet of false God is self-absorption. That's the one thing we have to be very careful about because, you know, there's that old saying that says, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. That is a pound of poppycock because I'm going to tell you something. If the flesh is so weak and the spirit so strong, why is it the flesh wins so much, you know? Because it's more fun and so to me, like, being on a spiritual path is kind of like trying to break a horse, okay? And I don't mean in the bad way where you break a horse to your will. What it is, much better, the horse whisperer way, that you encourage yourself to do good things, to grow, and to kind of get that self-discipline to push you through to get something done that gives you more power. We're actually gaining power as we practice self-control, self-discipline, and getting away from self-absorption. You will never find yourself happy if you live in self-absorption. You will not be happy. All you're going to think about is me, my, mine. The minute something doesn't go your way, you're going to be miserable. You're going to think God's not fair. I know, I walked that path, let me tell you. We're told by false gods and salespeople and merchandisers what we need in order to be happy. Do you know? Do you know what you need to be happy? I mean, if you had to write it down, you know, some people say, well, if I had this, if I had that, if I won the lottery, that's not going to really make you happy, you know. Money is never going to make you rich. Being rich is a state of mind. It's a state of consciousness. And once you get that, oh my gosh, the stress you can let go of. I spent many years in sales. And as I was in sales, I had to do a lot of training. Sales is hard. But there's one of the primary things they teach you in sales is to sell the sizzle, not the steak. So when you're selling something to somebody, what are you appealing to? You're probably appealing to their lower nature. You're appealing to, you know, oh, this is going to make you feel so good, or this product is going to make you feel so beautiful, or you need this mouthwash, or you're going to have, you know, bad breath. Oh, God, forget we should have bad breath. Well, that is not a pleasant thing. I sure wouldn't want it. It's selling the sizzle is not selling what's the actual thing that you are going to get. When you're in the store, you see the commercials, you see all the sizzle stuff, right? special lighting, all kinds of good things that entice us to buy that product, because it's going to make us happy. It's going to make us attractive. It's going to make us rich. And it goes on and on. You are the one that determines how happy and how wealthy you are. And I love what Abraham Lincoln is known for saying, which is, a person is about as happy as they make up their mind to be. Now, I used to think that meant if I wasn't happy all the time, that it was my fault, and then I discovered that things happen in our lives that drain our happiness. For example, when my granddaughter passed away, it was just all sucked right out of me, But I determined that I would live, and then I got happy. Am I happy? Do I not miss her all the time? I do, but I'm pretty happy, And a lot of people would never know that I was carrying a big burden in my heart. Not that I'm so wonderful, but I made a determination to be happy. You can't live in your losses. You just can't. So remember, wealth is never going to make you rich or happy or fulfilled. You do that as you follow the inner guidance to do and be all that you were created to do and be. And you don't need a particular lipstick, and you don't need a physical, what do they call that? Physical enhancement. That's like, there are times when we need certain cosmetic surgeries or whatever. Thank God for Project Smile, because of all the children that are born with cleft palate, that they get them back so they're, okay. But so many of us, we're not that unattractive at all. I would think, oh my God, I'm so ugly. Then you look at a photo album from 20 years ago and you go, darn, I was cute. You know what? You're still cute. I'm still cute. We're all still cute. How can we not be cute? We're God's kids, Today, one of the things that that troubles me is addiction. And I think that a lot of people, especially young people, are having the challenging circumstances in life today are draining their sense of positivity and hope. Is the positivity and hope there? It is. It is, because where there's life, there's hope. We're full of life, but sometimes the kids just can't see it. I'm sorry I keep pushing up my glasses. It's hot in here and I'm sweaty, so my glasses slide down over my... Keep pushing it back, so just deal with it. A lot of us look to escape our fear, our pain, our suffering, our temptation. Let's go back to sales for a minute. You can learn from anything in life. You can get spiritual lessons, okay? There is a legal term. It's a 3-day right of rescission. So if you have someone come to your house and sell you something, you've got 3 days to change your mind. Now, they're not going to point that out a lot. I know, because I used to sell, believe it or not, triple pane insulated windows. It was horrible, and I didn't do well at that at all. I didn't like what I was selling. But I'll tell you something, I can sell other stuff. But the people had that 3-day right of rescission. And if you sold something, you would hold your breath until that period of time was passed when you were good to go and you could get that commission check. Not my idea of a fun way to spend my life. As a matter of fact, I had another job, another sales job that I hated so much. I would go in at 9, by 10 I'd have a headache, and by noon I'd have a stomach ache. I didn't last long at that job. The true battle, we are in a battle, and I think I've said this before, we're in a battle of what is called the children of darkness and the children of light. The children of darkness is illusion, ignorance, unknowing, not wanting to know. And then the children of light are the children that are seeking enlightenment. When I say children, we're all children because we're not there yet, okay? One day we'll get to spiritual fulfillment, to spiritual maturity. We're working on it, and you know what I like to say? I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. So I am living proof you can overcome some of the things that you think you can't. I've done it, you can do it too. So the battle of light and dark is within us. When we go back again, because I get off track so easily, when we were talking about the horse, breaking a horse, that is like your physical body is the untrained. And if you know, like if a person gets on and I don't like the word, how about if we use untrained instead of unbroken horse? Okay. So if you get on a horse that has not been trained and it just, got caught and brought in and you hop on it, you are not going to be sitting on that horse very long. What eventually happens, and I suggest you look at the Horse Whisperer if you're not familiar, you can look that up online if you're not familiar what it is. A horse whisperer is someone that trains the horse with love, not with whips and, stuff like that. And we can train. We don't have to train our spiritual part. That's already there. We're training our human part. And, back in biblical times, sometimes people would do this thing where they would take a stick, and the stick had like leather straps with little barbs on it. And if they felt like their body, their human nature was taking control, they'd take the stick and they'd whack themselves with this thing with the tails and the barbs. That was to punish themselves. They were punishing themselves for being human. Remember we said, we are a spiritual being having a human experience. We start out before we spiritually wake up being a human being that has some spiritual experiences. Those are those little lights in you that know the truth, and they go off and off, and they get your attention, and you go, that's true. And that's how we begin to grow spiritually. So we train our lower nature the same way that a horse whisperer trains a horse. And in the end, they are an amazing team, the animal and the rider. And we will be that amazing team between our human body, which is our source. It's what we enjoy. It's what we have pleasure with. It's a vehicle. It carries the spirit, and it enables us to do powerful, good things and be a co-creator with God. But if that's what you want, you got to listen to the one presence and one power, not to the lower nature. Because the lower nature would just as soon put their feet up and watch TV all day and eat chocolates, and that's what my lower nature would probably want to do. But everyone has it. If we're lazy and narcissistic, we are going to have nothing but problems. And all of us have within us the tendency to be lazy and narcissistic sometimes. It just happens. The scriptures tell us that the truth is within us. And so we know when we're doing well, and we know when we're making a mistake. My mother used to have a term. She talked about having a niggling feeling. And yes, my dear friend Diane is mentioning Orzucchini cookies, which they came by, she and Kim came by the other day, and they brought zucchini cookies and zucchini cake bread and brownies, and guess what? They are all gone. We put them in the freezer, but they kept talking to us, ooh, you're hungry. And so we'd take a little piece and we'd separate it. So yeah, that was yummy, yummy food. But that was probably 2 weeks ago. So you see what I'm saying? These goodies that we got, we shared a little first, and then we put the rest in the freezer so we wouldn't be tempted to eat them all at once. And then every day we'd have our afternoon snack. It's okay to have a snack every day as long as it's a little snack and not one piece after the other after the other. If I told you about the time that when I was married to my first husband, this was like 50 years ago at least, he went somewhere and he didn't come back, and I'd have made a pumpkin pie, and I was so mad at him. This is the God's honest truth. I ate 3/4 of that pumpkin pie before he came home. You know, it was a little piece now and a little piece later. So who was I listening to? What false god was I listening to? My lower self that said, I'm going to have whatever I want. You know, my spiritual being that knew better, you know, probably, what are you doing? I never did suffer from it in those days. I weighed 85 pounds and I could eat whatever I wanted. But still, you cannot live on pumpkin pie alone. So next time you get that niggling feeling, I don't know if I should be doing this, listen to it, because that is the truth in you. One of my favorite scriptures is from Psalm 141, and it says, Put thou a guard before my lips, O God. That same thing. Sometimes your lower self, your brain and your mouth work faster than your spirit can get in and take control. Those are those moments when a little bit of I hate gossip, so it's hard to say, but I don't know, something that comes out of your mouth, anger, complaint, that's good. You really shouldn't complain. Before you complain, think. You know, I'll bet if you said 3 positive things before you made a complaint, you probably wouldn't complain. There's something to think about. Okay, so that's it for tonight. Do you know what we're going to do tomorrow? Starting tomorrow, we will begin with a confession. Okay, well, I will see you then. Until that time, have a great evening. I am so blessed by your presence and your comments. Keep them coming. If you can go to YouTube and subscribe to make sure you don't miss anything. And until tomorrow, have a great night, and God bless you.